World War II shaped the lives of a generation. The war broke families apart, brought communities together, and turned a depressed economy into an industrial machine. On the home front, citizens sold war bonds and collected scrap metal for the factories. Friends were made and lost as a generation of boys was sent into combat. Penn State Public Broadcasting invited those who lived this history to share their stories of World War II.
My name is Joseph Blood. I live in State College. Originally lived all my life in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania. I was 18 when I was drafted into the military. I didn't feel too good about leaving because at the time I was married and we had a small child, less than a year old. It was hard, but it was something that had to be done and got used to it. Well, I was drafted into, I forget where it was, down Harrisburg way, but then my training camp was Fort McClellan, Georgia. From there, we had our training there, and then we got some time off at home. And then from there, I shipped to California and was shipped overseas to Oahu in the Hawaiian Islands. I was in the invasion of Saipan, which was important because they wanted to launch B-29 bombers to bomb Japan from there. Then we had R&R from Saipan, and then we went to an Okinawa invasion. Saipan, when we got there, was in June of 44, and it was summertime in the Pacific, and fairly warm, or you might say good and warm. And it was an experience, landing on the beach, and then, well, we had to work our way inland. It was a joint operation with the Marines, and of course I was in the Army. And we divided the island. The Marines took half, went one way, and the Army took half, went the other way. And it was rough. I was in an anti-tank company, and we had firepower like machine guns and small cannons and such. And there was no tanks when we landed. Excuse me. Because the planes bombarding and so on, the tanks were all knocked out. So we backed up the front lines when they'd come to a pillbox or dugout where there was only a small slit that they could fire a machine gun out of. Why, they would call us up on the radio, and we could shoot into the slit with our cannons. So we were backing up the front lines this one morning early, just before dawn. We heard a lot of shooting and such going on in the front lines, and they radioed back to us that the Japanese, they were launching a banzai attack. And later in the morning, they had broke through the front lines and got back just about to where we were, and then we stopped them. And I had two friends. There was 4 of us drafted at the same time that stayed all together, but 2 of my friends were in the front line, and they both got killed that day. So that's an experience I'll always remember. Well, we were on the troop ships when we heard of President Roosevelt dying, and we landed on Okinawa at Easter. And the landing wasn't bad. There was very little fighting going on for the landing because the Japanese, they were all dug in and waiting till we got on land, and then they were going to fight. But it was a different experience than Saipan. Well, it was a larger island, and it took longer to secure it. And, of course, there was one place especially, they called it a ridge. They had all kinds of installations dug into it where you could go from one to another without coming out in the open, like tunnels and things like that. And it was really bad when we got that far. We had some funny things that happened, too. We had a, because we was an anti-tank company, was in our headquarters battalion, they called it. And, of course, we had the cooks and things like that. The kitchen, we helped haul the kitchen supplies and such because we had trucks to pull our cannons. And on Saipan, the rainy season came, and meanwhile they had come across and got some concrete some way and poured a slab. This was after the island was secured. They poured this slab and put up a tent over it to set up a kitchen. So this one cook, the rainy season came, and then we had foxholes that we slept in and pup tents over them. And he was in an area where his foxhole started getting full of water. And then where the kitchen was, the ground was level, but there was a huge crater from either a bomb or a 16-inch shell. And he started running for this kitchen in water that was ankle deep. And all of a sudden he disappeared. He forgot about this crater, and it was full of water. So he just disappeared in the crater. Of course, he could swim. He got out of it. But we had a good laugh out of that. Coming home was a happy feeling. We knew from fighting the Japanese what it would be like to fight them on their homeland. I mean, we could believe that they were fanatic. And we knew there would be a lot of casualties, and Okinawa was to be the jumping-off place for the invasion. And we were really glad when it happened. We had to come home on a ship, naturally. We come home in January of '46. The sea was pretty rough. And we landed in Seattle. We got passes to get off the ship. We had to spend the night on the ship, but we got passes to get off. We went into town. And we were looking for a place to get something to eat and maybe a drink. And we come to this one, it was like a bar or a grill. And they had a big sign in the window, "No dogs or servicemen allowed." And so I don't know if you can imagine how we felt about that. But that was the only bad thing that I ever remember about it. And from there we went to Camp Atterbury, Indiana, and got discharged. And from there on we were civilians. And it's hard to describe how happy it was to get home. The daughter, she was grown up some. Naturally, she wasn't even walking when I left, but it was quite an experience. Back in those days, everybody was glad to see us come back. We were welcome. They were all happy for us. That's the ones that came back, but then there was a lot of us that didn't. I remember it was supposed to be the war that ended all wars. But I know we've had wars since that. And I feel that I'd done my duty, and I feel good about being a veteran.